Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. Happy Friday. Big day. This is the day your double points start when you order Whataburger. That's right. Today through Monday, double points for Whataburger. By the way, Whataburger bringing us to San Antonio. We will be in San Antonio on Saturday, noon to 4 Central Time. Come see us. Come visit. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be in downtown San Antonio. We very near the Alamo, not the Dome, but the actual Alamo. So it'll be closer to your hotels if you are in town for the games. But come see us. We'll have the Whataburger food truck out there. Double points when you order Whataburger this weekend. It's going to be spectacular. Ari, we got fun basketball games this weekend. We got Florida Auburn. We got Houston Duke. It's going to be a blast. And, of course, spicy ketchup.
I want to emphasize something that I just want people to hear, and I know it's implied, but I want to say it. We want to meet you guys. So if you're there, it would be great to see you. And the best part about it is even if you don't care about meeting us, there are going to be burgers there. Really good Whataburgers. Like, come stop by. Let's have some fun. Let's put some faces to names. And, you know, we want to hear about the show. We want to hear what you think. We want to meet you. We want to build the community. So if you're around, if you're going to the games, you listen to us and you want to stop by, we'll make a point to hang out. And, you know, I'm going to put some burgers down. I think you are too, Andy. And it's
I've been doing these reads about the mushroom Swiss burger, and I have not actually had the mushroom Swiss burger from Whataburger yet. I've had obviously lots of Whataburger burgers, but I've not had the mushroom Swiss burger yet. And this looks like the most amazing thing in the world. So I intend to put some of these down this weekend.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. Can't wait to eat. Can't wait to do the show. Can't wait to get to San Antonio, be in the vibes. Can't wait to watch the games. And most importantly, can't wait to meet you guys. So come by and let's make this fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We've talked these basketball games to death. We know at this point what we think is going to happen. It's going to be fun. Ari and I have made our predictions. Ari's on Auburn. I'm on Florida. We're both on Duke.
And I made a bet. I made the bet. It was a terrible bet odds-wise, but I bet a lot of money that Duke would win the national title.
For very little return. Gotcha.
Well, it's even money, but like if I would have done it a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, it would have been 5-1 maybe. It was a bad play on my part, but I think they're going to do it. And
I don't know, because I think Florida or Auburn can beat them. I am less confident in Houston's ability. But look, Houston can lock you down defensively. You saw what they did at Tennessee. Now, Duke obviously has a lot more dynamic scores, so you're going to hold somebody like Duke to 15 points in a half. But I do think Houston's going to give them a really good challenge. And then if Duke wins, whoever comes out of that other side can beat them on the right day.
You know, and listen, there's nothing guaranteed. If I knew for sure that was going to happen or that what you said was wrong, I would have put more on it. But I want you guys to know that when I say things on this show, if it's not known already, like I really think it, you know, and I don't have to back that up with financial investments into those things, but I'm doing the best that I can to be as genuine and real as possible. So I think that they're the best team that I've ever seen with my eyes. Doesn't mean that they're the best ever, but like I've never seen a college basketball team play that way. And I put some shekels out there to back that up. So we'll see how it goes. We'll talk about it.
It's tough to imagine how they lose. You can do it with Florida and Auburn. It's hard to imagine it with Houston. But if you want to delve a little deeper, go to the On3 Sports YouTube page. Ari and I have our predictions up for each of those games. We have a long discussion about each one, and check it out. Make your decision. Do you agree with Ari that this is Duke's to lose? Do you agree with Ari that Auburn and Duke will face off for the national title? Or do you agree with me that Florida and Duke will face off for the national title? We will find out. And, of course, we will be there Saturday talking about the games beforehand. Talk to John Fanta from Fox, who covers college basketball for them. Maybe my favorite of the young college basketball analysts. He is awesome. He calls games on Fox, and he's very plugged in. Like Kevin Willard was at his wedding. He's a fun dude. And so, and also lots of food takes. So I think he's going to fit in real well. He's going to come visit while we're in San Antonio. Very excited about that. And I believe we have the Whataburger executive chef confirmed. I'm very excited about that too.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to get down there, and can't wait to see you guys too. It's gonna be great.
Going to be fun. Now, we got to talk a little college football though, because we're enjoying the basketball season, but it's going to be over on Monday, and then we'll have a little college baseball. But the major, the big revenue producing college sports will be over until it's football season. So it got us thinking about the beginning of college football season, which is going to be here sooner than you think. And some of these non-conference games, especially early in the season, are really good. So Ari made a list. He ranked the top 10 non-conference games of 2025. And we can start right away because I guarantee you're going to click on the list and a lot of you are going to go, what on earth are you doing? How is Texas Ohio State not number one? So Texas Ohio State number 2, LSU Clemson number 1. So Ari, let's talk about why Texas Ohio State hits the 2 spot, and then why the Tigers in Dueling Death Valleys gets the 1 spot.
Well, the Ace Ventura, Jim Carrey. I got a lot to say here. So first of all, this always gets lost in discussions, but Texas and Ohio State's number 2. Like the thought process that they're not number 1 does not mean that I don't think it's compelling or going to be an awesome game or something that I want to go to. But when you look at what I personally get excited about when it comes to these games, like I'm inherently drawn to stakes, right? And if you look at the Clemson LSU game, you have 2 teams that we think conceivably be national championship contenders. But you also have coaches in very interesting positions. Like, I don't think Dabo Swinney is ever going to be in danger of being fired. But I do think that this is a very pivotal moment for him and his program because, I did another list a few weeks ago that said coaches with the most to prove, and I put Dabo Swinney on it, and people freaked out. They're like, how can you put a coach that's won 2 national championships on a list of coaches that have something to prove when the majority of that list is dominated by coaches who could be fired? And it's like, just because you're not in danger of being fired doesn't mean that you're not in a critical position or a position to prove something. And I think that Dabo Swinney is in a position to prove something, which is that his way, the way that he came onto our show and so sternly, doubled down, tripled down, and, bet his life on, is going to become really important this year. Can Clemson win and win big against teams that are national championship contenders? And with the way that they assemble their roster and the way that they do things. And, I have unequivocally been either adapt or die, and Dabo has adapted to some degree, but not all the way. Can Clemson be a team in today's game of NIL and transfer portal that can win a national title? And I think in this game, you're going to find the answer to that question. I really do. And they're favored by 2.5 points. And that's great. And it's a game that's on the road at Clemson, right? And then you go to the other side, which is when things really go haywire, which is, what is LSU this year? What are they? And if they're really, really good, and Garrett Nussmeier turns into a Heisman candidate right away if he's not already, and Brian Kelly finally ends the 5-game season opener losing streak that LSU unbelievably has at the moment, then you have a entirely new storyline that I don't think is getting enough attention, which is LSU is awesome. They did a tremendous job in the portal. They have a really good quarterback. I'm very excited to see what Harold Perkins is this year because I thought he was one of the best players in college football as a true freshman. And then, of course, the other layer to this, which is Brian Kelly. What if they lose? The what if questions that spawn off of this like a bloomin' onion are so I don't know if you have to be a college football nerd to appreciate it, but it's like the Ohio State Texas game is like, oh wow, 2 really good teams are playing with good players and Arch Manning is playing. Everybody, obviously we get that. It's exciting, it's compelling, we're probably going to go to it. But the branches of college football nerdiness that come off of this game are more extensive to me.
Oh, it is multi-layered. I thought that your bloomin' onion analogy is very good because there are so many different layers to this game. Before we started recording, I said, the one thing we haven't talked about this game, because the assumption that we keep making is that Clemson's going to be really good this year, that LSU may be a little bit better, but isn't going to be dramatically better, and that Clemson just wins this game and LSU melts down. But what happens if LSU just beats the snot out of Clemson the way Georgia beat the snot out of Clemson last year? Like, what if that happens? Because if LSU hit on everybody they got in the transfer portal, if some of the young offensive linemen turn out to be good, LSU is a good team. Like, LSU could be a national title contender. So,
and I've heard from multiple people, Andy, multiple people who have, both in coaching and, in media, who have been paying attention to LSU's moves, who think that LSU is a dark horse national championship contender. Okay. So, like, I don't know where they're ranked in the way too early polls that people have done, but they're probably somewhere between 6 and 12 in most of those, right?
Yeah, we've put them kind of just outside the playoff in ours, but but that's one game. It's one game from being in the playoff, really.
But
it's
also, if
one
LSU
game different
comes out and beats the crap out of Clemson, then you have the, oh my God, LSU is here, and then you have the Brian Kelly discourse, and you also have the Garrett Nussmeier discourse, right? And then on the other flip of the coin, you have, okay, Dabo, this is it. We're in a place where what you're doing isn't working for Clemson's level. And I know that when he came on the show, like, listen, it's impossible not to like him personally, right? Like, he's like the coolest dude. But I wonder if this is a moment where because I asked him on the show, Andy, have you ever had any moments in the shower where you thought maybe this isn't the right way to do it anymore? And he steadfastly said, no, it didn't even occur to him that it's not. Then I wonder if LSU beats up on them on the road, if he has to have an honest moment with himself, maybe a mirror moment, maybe at a time that's not after the shower, and like really think like, hey, maybe we got to do things a little bit differently. Maybe the Clemson way is not, okay in today's game. Maybe he won't, and it'll just continue down the same path. But as much as you want to tout the ACC championships and all the games that they've won, which, by the way, is a great accomplishment, and he should be proud of those things. The thing that we're judging them through the lens of is the Clemson that we grew to know between 2016 and 19 and 20, and the Clemson that they are now, and they are unequivocally not as good as they were in the past. And maybe nobody is as good as they were in the past, but I think the benchmark level of what Clemson football had become and what they should be right now is a team that could conceivably win the national title, and they have not been that. They've made the playoff. They've been good. They've won the ACC, but they have not been a team that can compete with the best on the national stage, which we've seen in season openers and we've seen in the postseason. It bookended last year. They got their butts kicked by what turned out to be a pretty average Georgia team for their standards at the beginning of the year. And then, they were in fighting distance on the scoreboard with Texas, but they really weren't in that game if you watched it. So there's a lot there to me.
Yeah. And the thing about Clemson you just mentioned is, can they get back to being the Clemson that we grew to know? This appears to be the closest they've been to that version of Clemson, because they got the quarterback, they got young receivers they're excited about, they're talented on defense. Now, go back to that Texas game. They got dominated on the ground. That defense was bad. Now, I don't know that defense had bad players. And I think that's the thing I want to find out is how much of a difference does firing Wes Goodwin and hiring Tom Allen make? Which LSU fans understand, because they had the same issue with their defense where they fired Matt House and then they hired Blake Baker, and the defense got better even though it hadn't been really improved on the personnel front. Clemson's defense has been improved on the personnel front. And oh, by the way, so has LSU's this year. Like, LSU took a completely different tack in the transfer portal than the year before. They went out and got people that they needed at positions that they were thin at. And I think that's what makes this so exciting. Now, I mentioned Tom Allen coming to Clemson, taking over a defense that is talented, but man, you could run on them last year. My biggest question about LSU is, can you run on anybody? Because they had this really good offensive line last year that was great at protecting Garrett Nussmeier in most games. but they really couldn't establish a run game. And I wasn't sure if it was an ability situation or a choice, like in terms of this is how we're calling the game situation. So are they more balanced offensively? Because in the league they play in, they're going to need to be able to do both.
So the one thing that's interesting about this game is that with the perception right now is that Clemson's a better football team than LSU at the moment. Like that's the perception on April 3rd or April 4th as we're recording this. The thing I will say about Clemson is that my doubt for them as a program rested in the notion that they weren't able to accumulate enough good players to win a national championship under their system. And like that, I think you could already say is wrong, right? Because like their team in terms of who is on it.
If we look at everybody else that we think has a chance to win the national title, they compare very favorably.
Very much in that conversation, if not ahead of it. And the other person that we have not even mentioned on this segment yet is Cade Klubnik. Like, like Cade Klubnik was really, really good down the stretch of last year. Clemson's coming into a season where they have a seasoned veteran at the position that may take a huge step forward. If Cade Klubnik takes a huge step forward from where he ended last year, we're talking like first-round draft pick level of play here. So you add that into the mix, and it's like you have two teams in this game that could conceivably win the national title next year. And you're getting it on August 30th, right out of the gate, and it's a true road game at Clemson. And it's like, okay, so when you want to like argue with me about whether or not, Ohio State and Texas is more compelling, I think that you could make the case that Arch Mania is a big enough story that carries the ship for you. Because I know people just like, I want to see Arch. I want to see Texas on what Arch's team is. But at the same time, when you look at the Ohio State-Texas result, it doesn't compare to the meaning of what the result of this game is going to tell us about programs, directions, and trajectories. The loser of the Ohio State-Texas game isn't met with a column of the sky is falling.
Right. No, it's going to be like, oh, yeah, but they can still go win the conference.
They go win their conference and get in the This is a declaration.
It's not Florida Miami last year where I call it a pitchforks and torches game where the losing coach, everybody's going to want to fire. But this is one of those where if you listen to the post-game show for the losing team, it's an absolute freaking meltdown.
Yeah.
It will be a meltdown of epic proportions.
Like, and if this game ends like 38-35 and it's just a fun, entertaining game, and maybe it'll be at night. I don't know. The time's to TBD. But like, I think that there are certain ways that this game could look where you feel okay about both teams still. But like, if one team blows out the other one or one team looks bad, and I don't think that's going to happen with Clemson. Like, I think they're going to be a very good team this year.
There's a baseline level of confidence with Clemson. LSU has a lot of new pieces.
Yeah.
So the thing about LSU is it could be they look one way in this Clemson game, and then by the time they play Florida in week 3, they look completely different.
Yeah.
But that won't matter if they look bad against Clemson. Like it won't matter because people will still go berserk. And then if they come back and improve and then beat Florida, then everything sort of normalizes. But it will be high drama either way. The stakes will feel very high.
Yes. And then there's this other tentacle that is just an ongoing conversation about this game. At the risk of this being our whole show. But the general thought process of like this question, which is Brian Kelly a good coach right now? Like, I know that sounds harsh, but there are a lot of people who don't think he's doing a very good job right now. And like, I know he's been successful and consistent and they've won their side of the SEC a few years ago and all the things that you want to say about him. But when you put Brian, like, I think that you could make the case that Brian Kelly is the most divisive and most feeling-spawning human that is a coach in college football. Like, I think
you're right, and I think the guy on the other sideline in this game is also in the top 5 of that list.
But I also think is not even close to Brian Kelly. Like, which person's face draws them? Like, if you put a picture of Brian Kelly's face on the screen, he draws more reaction from a.
Oh yeah, everybody has a very strong opinion.
Yeah. And like, I don't even like, I know people like have come down on Dabo Sweeney because of like put foot in the mouth moments. But do you think that there's like a large portion of people who generally just dislike him as a person? Like, I don't know, maybe, but like, I think there's a lot of people who just dislike Brian Kelly as a person. So
yeah, I would agree.
So like that to me is also interesting of like the Schadenfreude potentially of LSU, who was the big bad wolf who took Notre Dame's coach away, and then they might have ended up with a sack of potatoes that didn't get them where they wanted to go. Which might not be the case because, again, I think they did a great job in the offseason, and I think LSU has a chance to be very good. But
objectively speaking, Brian Kelly is a very good coach.
He's a very good
coach.
He
wins a lot.
Yes, he does win a lot. He wins a lot, but he needs to win enough. And there's a line between those two things in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yes. And the line's different in Baton Rouge than it is pretty much anywhere else.
Yes, like the line of hero at Notre Dame and the line of failure at LSU are right here.
Yeah.
The same. 10 games at LSU is a disaster. 10 games at Notre Dame, you're pretty good. Maybe not anymore now that they played in the national title, but when he was there, he was doing just fine. And yeah, so I think that the Brian Kelly aspect of this is really interesting. And also speaking to, like, if LSU loses 5 games this year, like, are we in a hot seat discussion?
I don't think they can afford to pay that buyout, but yeah. I mean, it's
5 games.
Listen, Texas A&M fired Jimbo Fisher. we're across the Rubicon now. Who knows? But I know that this game will feel huge. The result of this game will feel huge no matter what, no matter how it goes. So that's why
Andy
put it number 1, and I agree with Ari.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, because before the show, we looked at the graphic, and I'm like, people are mad that I put Texas and Ohio State too, and you're like, yeah, because it's number 1. Like, you said that. Like, did I change your mind?
Yeah, because the average person is going to. No, I agreed with you all along. Because I'm a storyline person. And
storylines are the reason we watch it. It's TV. Right. This is reality television. And this is a juicier episode of the same show to me.
Yeah. Texas Ohio State has the bigger stars, the bigger brand names.
Yeah.
But this has the more juicy storylines and the more potential for.
Do you know anything about wrestling?
No.
Okay. Oh, if Chris Vanini was here, he could help me out with that. But like in WWE, because that's a soap opera, right?
Oh, wrestling. I mean, I know a little. I watched it as a kid, so
okay.
Yeah.
But like, do you like are you up to speed with who the big people are? Because I'm not. But like, when the 2 most famous people in WWE fight, that probably is a big event, right? But
right.
Aren't the underbelly stories of like the guys who are trying to rise up and like take it from the people who are at the top like more compelling? Like,
yes, sometimes you have a much more compelling character beneath the 2 headliners, and that's
and like if you look at the bottom of this list, which I don't know if we have enough time to get to, but it's like Auburn, Baylor, and Illinois Duke being on this to a random fan is like, what the hell? I don't give a crap about watching Illinois Duke. That's going to be
I've got one you left off that I thought should have been on there.
Which one?
Georgia Tech, Colorado.
Interesting. I saw that, but which game would you remove?
It would either be Auburn, Baylor, or Illinois Duke, but I'm with you on both of those. Like Illinois Duke is one that people are going to, and Ari's got that at number 9 if you don't have the list in front of you. But people are going to look at that and say, you know, what are you talking about? Illinois brings back the core of a team that won 10 games last year. Duke went out and got Darian Mensah is either the best or the second best quarterback in the portal this year.
Yep. And they return a ton.
It is going to be, well, maybe the third. Carson Beck also in that mix, but
Carson Beck is not number 1 or number 2 in that list, period.
Okay, so it's Darian Mensah and John Mateer, however you want to put them in order.
Yes.
And
but Duke won 9 games last year too. I don't know if people forgot that. And it's a road game for Illinois. Like, what if this is like the breeding ground? Is that a weird way to say it? Is breeding ground even a word? Maybe. What if this is like the entry point to this year's Indiana?
Either one. Although I don't think Illinois would even qualify as this year's Indiana because Illinois won so many games last year.
I know people, but I don't know if the general fan sees them coming.
Yeah, well, we've tried to hype them up. All right, well, let's talk about Texas and Ohio State because that is a very fun game. It is Archmania coming to the Horseshoe. It is a rebuilt Ohio State team. It's a terrible word to use, I guess, because Ohio State has so many talented players. But I mean, that defense is gone that won the national championship. Most of those players are gone. Caleb Downs is back. But
could you use
the
the
new
word
quarterback
renovated or renovated Ohio State?
Renovated's good. Rebuilt is wrong because they're still going to be talented. But
Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs were the bones of the home, and now that they're replacing other elements and modernizing it to the. I don't know.
Jeremiah Smith is the best player in college football, or the most important player. However you want to phrase that. He's the most amazing person in college football right now. So you got him going against that Texas defense, which is going to be a lot of fun. Now, Texas defense has a lot to replace. Jahdae Barron's not back there anymore. The two defensive tackles, Collins and Broughton, are gone. There's a lot of unknown that's going to happen, or we're going to learn more about in this game. But the thing is, because both these teams come in as unknown with a lot of unknowns, I don't know that we're going to get a grand proclamation from either one in this game.
If Ohio State wins, is that a grand proclamation?
In a close game?
Yeah.
They win by one. It's not a grand proclamation. It's great. It's great for Ohio State, but it doesn't. Yeah. We think both of these teams are capable of making the playoff and competing for a national title.
See, the Ohio State -3.5 number to me is off.
You think it should be the other?
I think
flip the other direction.
I know it's in Ohio Stadium, but I think Texas is more complete from a certainty standpoint at the moment. I'm surprised Ohio State's laying more than a field goal here. And maybe I'll just look like an idiot, and Ohio State will just rock the boat again next year and be awesome. But in terms of I always go back to this, but I do. 2 months ago I did a list of the top 10 returning players in college football, and Ohio State had 1 and 2, right? So maybe that's the answer. But Texas had
some guys on that list too, though.
That could have been on the list. So this will be a really good game, and I'm super excited. But I think Texas probably has the advantage at quarterback at the moment, right? You would think that Texas is probably in a better spot. I think Texas's defense from top to bottom is probably better than Ohio State's is right now. Ohio State has to replace their running backs, which were awesome. Texas is bringing back C.J. Baxter, who is a 5-star, who I think is going to be a beast. Ohio State obviously has the advantage at the receiver position, but I guess 3.5 is basically a pick 'em on a road, but Texas is a team that I think is going to win the national title next year. And Ohio State has questions about how great it's going to be a 10-win team at its baseline always. But I don't know if I look at this Ohio State roster and think the same way that I did about their playoff run a year ago, they're going to have to rebuild this thing a little bit. And that's the word, because when you lose that many players to the NFL draft, you do have to rebuild it, even if you have good pieces to work with.
Right. And I think you're right that Texas has more experience returning.
And more widespread.
Even if they don't have the complete wow factor like Jeremiah Smith. But Texas has good receivers coming back. Ryan Wingo year 2, I'm really excited to see what he turns into.
I mean, your Ryan Wingo could be a top 10, top 5 receiver next year. And then you think about all 3 levels of their defense with the players that they have. I mean, I don't know. Texas to me is the team that we both picked to win the national title, and they're getting their dogs on the road in the opener against a team that has to replace 20 players. Does that make sense to you?
Not really. Not really. I mean, the thing is, Texas has to replace a lot too. They've got to replace a lot on their offensive line, and we've talked on the show about that, where I think it's a pretty strong signal that you did not see Texas go crazy in the transfer portal on the offensive line. They're no, the guys we have in the pipeline, we feel are good. They did go interior defensive line heavy in the transfer portal, which they didn't have to do that last year. Last year, they had Collins and Broughton coming back, even though they had lost a first rounder and a second rounder on their interior D line. So that's the one where you kind of worry. But again, what's Ohio State's offensive line going to look like?
Yeah,
there's a lot of unknown here.
And Ohio State did lean on some young offensive linemen last year that are going to come back during their injury woes, that are going to be starting in their interior offensive line. And they did get the best offensive tackle transfer out of Rice in the transfer portal. So they did, plug into some places. But also too, like, are we 100% certain? Like, I feel more confident that Texas's quarterback is going to be awesome next year than I do Ohio State's. Now, I'm sure they'll be very good. Whoever it is, they've got options. It's Ohio State.
We think it's Julian Sayin, but if you read Letterman Row, they're saying Lincoln Keenholz had a great day the other day, and Sayin struggled. So it doesn't sound like it's 100% certain who that's going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I covered that team for a long time. I will tell you right now that Lincoln Keenholz will not be the starter there in the fall. Like, what are we?
You got to spread the compliments around. That's how it works these days in spring practice. You got to spread them around. Make sure that person stays out of the portal.
My number one problem, and maybe I'm just a terrible businessman, is that, like, I don't like living in fantasy land. Like, I'm like let's just what's going to happen. The shortest point between two things is a straight line, and let's just draw that line. But yeah, like it's like really hard to talk about this game, Andy, because if you're not overly positive about a team that just won the national title, you'll come across as a hater, or you'll come across as you think they stink. It's like,
I think Ohio State fans understand. I mean, maybe I
hope they do.
People who aren't Ohio State fans don't, but I think Ohio State fans understand very, very well what they lost.
Yeah, I mean, I really like. We could talk about this Ohio State for a second. Like, I think Ohio State's number one goal next year is to beat Michigan. Like, I don't think that there's anything else that they need to accomplish next year after winning the national title last year. Obviously, they want to make the playoff, and obviously they want to win 10 games. I'm sure they will, but they have to win 10 games, and they have to beat Michigan next year. And then everything on top of that, I think, is gravy from my perspective. Obviously, you want to win the national title or compete for it. I'm sure they will. They're very good. They're very well coached. Their roster is stacked. But my number one concern, if I'm an Ohio State fan, is to end the Michigan losing streak. And then move forward into the future with the ring that you won last year. Like, I don't know if, like, you have to overthink, like, what's important next year.
No, and I think you've bought a lot of grace.
Sure.
With that run last year.
And then you're completely forgiven, I think, 100% of the way if you could beat Michigan. I think, like, that's it. Like, there's nothing else. Especially if Michigan's a good team next year, which I anticipate they will be. So,
but the other part of that is Ohio State could lose to Texas, wind up playing Texas again in the playoff, and be a completely different team by that point.
Yeah.
Because so many people are in new positions and new, inexperienced guys are taking on bigger roles.
Yeah, and I'm sure Ohio State will make the playoff. I mean, I'm comparing them against the team in this conversation that I think is going to win the national title. So this isn't Ohio State stinks. I don't think Ohio State right now is as good as the team that I think is the best in college football at the moment. Like, you have to contextualize that thing. Yeah. So,
and what if, here's another thing. Now, we talked about with LSU and Clemson, the meltdown aspect of the losing team. But what if Arch goes up to the horseshoe and balls out? Does Arch mania just take over college football? Does that become the biggest thing in college football right from the get-go in 2025?
I think if you put this game number one on your list, that's what you're doing it for, right?
Yeah, it's not a guarantee, but if it happens, it's going to be a huge deal.
For sure. And I think it's going to happen. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to be really, really good.
Now, are we ready for that? Because you and I joke about it. We always joke about, we're going to put Arch in the headline and people are going to click on it. And I think people will get fatigued at that real fast if he's actually good. Because I think people have been conditioned to think, you guys keep telling us. Like, at this point, if he's not Andrew Luck, Johnny Manziel, Cam Newton, Mac Jones, 2020, like all those guys rolled into one, then it's going to be considered a letdown. But the fact of the matter is he just has to be a good college quarterback, and he can take Texas a long way.
I think Quinn Ewers was a good college quarterback. I don't think he was a great one. I think he was a good college quarterback, and they were within one possession late in the game with the national champion in the semifinal. So if you are a step or two better than Quinn Ewers, which is 10 steps behind what Cam Newton was, I think you have enough to win the national title. Now, the thing is do people got arch mania? And I know, but it's does he have to be one of the, Cam Newton is the greatest college player of all time? Is that what he has to be in your mind? And and here's the second.
I don't think everybody's mind, but I think there will be a group of people who will not be satisfied unless he is. Our producer River, Texas, arch mania will reach levels of Johnny Football if he plays well. The thing about it, though, I don't think we'll ever get the Scooby-Doo costume with the two ladies on the side. Arch is not going to wear the Scooby-Doo costume. And that's
with Johnny, you have to consider and you have to acknowledge too, is that Johnny Mania didn't happen until October.
Right. Right.
Johnny Mania didn't happen. Half the country.
When Johnny Manziel had the shirtless mugshot come out that summer, nobody knew who the hell he was.
Right. And people didn't know who he was. The general fan didn't really know who he was until
Alabama game.
Right. And when was that? Was that October or November?
It was actually early November. He was putting, because I remember writing a column about the numbers he was putting up, because the numbers through his first few SEC starts they compared really favorably to Cam Newton's in 2010. And so I did a side-by-side comparison. I was like, these numbers look the same. And people are like, what are you talking about? And it's true. And then you see him play in person. It's like, oh my God, this is incredible. Yeah. And I was at Alabama LSU game that Alabama won in overtime the week before in Baton Rouge. And then the next week I was in Tuscaloosa for the Johnny Football game. And it was full on. As soon as that happened, you knew this is going to be the most famous person in the country on Sunday.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Johnny Manziel was probably one of the most entertaining players I've ever seen in college football. So let me just start there. You know what I think gets lost in the Texas A&M Johnny Football mania that for some reason nationally that no one ever talks about? Mike Evans is really, 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 really good.
Yes. Yes.
Mike
Huge
Evans
piece of that. Huge piece.
Receivers in the history of the NFL. Is that true? Isn't
it? It is true. Mike Evans is a top 5 receiver in football history. Yes.
He was awesome.
Yes.
But Cam Newton and Johnny Manziel put up similar numbers, but you know what? It looked very differently.
Well, right, because Cam Newton, the other players that started for Auburn's offense that year, do you know how many NFL starts they combined for?
0.
1. One of the offensive linemen started a game. That's it.
Yeah.
So now Philip Lutzenkirchen would have played for a long time in the NFL. He passed away in a car accident, but that's the difference. Johnny Manziel had a first-round left tackle, had a first-round guard, had Mike Evans at receiver. It was a good team. It was a really good team.
Yeah. And I just
first-round right tackle too.
Sometimes I feel and I don't know, maybe I'm off on this, but I feel like Mike Evans doesn't have his due in football history. And I don't even think it's an A&M thing. I don't think he has his due in NFL.
No, it's actually more of an NFL thing. He, in terms of just pure production over time, Jerry Rice is the only one that really outdoes him.
Am I making this stat up, or does he have 10 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons?
He does. Now, there was an argument about the way they got him the 1,000th yards at the end of last season.
What was the argument?
Because they left him in the game that was already decided, and they ran a play that they probably didn't need to run to make sure he got the yards. But if you hear Liam Cohen talk about it, they had a play called for him on the previous drive, and the opponent ran a defense that they just couldn't throw it to him. So they went back and tried the same play again, and he was.
I don't care. He got it.
He got it. No, and the thing about it is, he's been doing it on good teams, on average teams, on bad teams. It doesn't matter. He gets his either way.
Yes. So I just Mike Evans. If you're listening, because I know you are.
We love you.
We love you. You're awesome.
All right. Other games on this list before we get to Dear Andy and Dear Ari. I love Michigan, Oklahoma. We probably need to. We could dedicate a whole show to that game or to those two teams, because
And I think you could make the case they should be higher than 4. Like, I think that you could make a case that they, like, from a bloomin' onion.
Yeah, you have Florida, Miami there, which I think it's less interesting than it was last year because last year was the season opener. We really didn't know much. This year, it's game 4. Miami will have played Notre Dame and Florida will have played LSU. So
it's a rivalry. I think that's part of the reason why I put it up there. Also, like, that's going to be a critical moment in the Billy Napier time arc.
And possibly the Mario Cristobal one.
I think that actually, the way I was thinking about it, you can let me know if you agree or disagree with this, is that based on where it falls on the schedule, I actually find it to be more compelling because Billy Napier might not just be like the opener. Like,
I kind of need to know what happens in Notre Dame, Miami first. Yeah. And I kind of need to know what happens in LSU, Florida. Like, because I can't contextualize that game yet.
Yeah, I almost feel like it might be even more interesting if both teams like have lost.
Oh yeah, no. If Notre Dame clobbers Miami and LSU beats Florida, it becomes a desperation must-win. Oh my God, game. Yes. It's a little bit different if Florida's coming off a win in Baton Rouge and they're like, it's a non-conference game, whatever.
But tentacles.
Yeah,
on the Oklahoma-Michigan game are massive. Like, if you want to do them to the tentacle, like bloomin' onion, LSU, Clemson talk, like Michigan, Oklahoma, we could do the next 40 minutes on. Like, if you want,
let's save it. Let's save it, and let's talk about it next week because I think that's a game that there's a lot to talk about. I think Alabama at Florida State, which we're assuming is going to be a bloodbath, could be really interesting too because Florida State is not going to be as bad as they were. Well, I'm assuming they can't be as bad as they were last year.
Don't assume anything, but like, it's hard to be.
So let's save those and talk about them next week because I do think, like, you're right. Michigan, Oklahoma, you could fill 2 hours talking about that game. The various.
Yeah, you got 2 coaches that are in interesting positions. You have a potential 5-star freshman starting at one place. You have John Mateer in the, like, I'm not going to blow it, but like, there's a lot there to unpack.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wait on that one. Let's move to the mailbag because we have some incredible questions. I'm going to start with one that Willie sent early in the week. Willie is a very dedicated commenter here. One of my favorite commenters, always smart. I don't know that I necessarily agree with his first sentence, but I'm willing to go with this. Since everyone in America knows that the greatest college football team ever is the 2001 Miami Hurricanes, what would you imagine that roster would command in NIL? Now, I would argue that 95 Nebraska has a case to be made for the greatest college football team ever. But in terms of pure future NFL talent, there is no argument to be made. It is 2001 Miami, and this is a great question because I'm not sure you could have this roster now. There's certain elements of depth to it that I do not think you could have now because those players would just go somewhere else because they wouldn't want to wait. They wouldn't want to sit behind anybody.
You know, on Sports Reference, when you like look at a former roster, like, do you ever go to Sports Reference? To just,
yeah.
The number of NFL badges on 2001 Miami is like, you almost feel like it's an error. Like, you know, the NFL badges next to names. And like, for those who are unfamiliar,
they had, I'll give you one number. They had 17 first rounders on this roster.
My God. Yeah. Like, Kellen Winslow was a freshman who only had 2 receptions that year. Like, Walter Payton's son was on the team, and he like didn't even carry the ball.
Well, okay. Here are the running backs on this team: Clinton Portis, Najee Davenport, who became famous for something else much later, much worse. Willis McGahee, and Frank Gore were freshmen on this team. It's insane.
Yep.
Frank Gore averaged 9.1 yards a carry as a freshman on this team. And they were both huge recruits. But other guys on this team, Vince Wilfork, was a freshman. Jonathan Vilma was a sophomore. DJ Williams was a sophomore. They had the greatest safety in the history of the sport, Ed Reed. They also had it's insane when you think about the level of talent on this team. They had Sean Taylor, who might have been Sean Taylor's probably, if he does not get murdered, a top 5 safety in the history of the NFL.
I'm looking at the list here still. It's like Antrell Roll was on this team. Mike Rumpf was on this team. He played in the NFL, and I think is a prominent high school football coach in South Florida for a while.
Bryant McKinney.
Philip Buchanan. And you didn't even say like Andre Johnson on offense. You didn't say Jeremy Shockey. Like it's
I know.
It's unbelievable. And it's like this is the team that would have held up in the super era team.
Held up. They would have kicked the crap out of the super team era.
Yeah.
2019 LSU against this team would have been maybe the greatest football game ever played.
Man. Okay, so let's go through the numbers here. Let's see. Are you going to have because you got some help, and I
consulted Pete Nakos, our guy at On3, who is tight with all the agents, understands this market better than anybody else. And I will point out that 2002 Miami, which had a lot of these guys on the team, played a 2002 Ohio State team, which was kind of close to that level of that 2002 Ohio State team had.
Didn't the 2002 Ohio State team set the record for most draft picks in a single year?
I believe they did.
Something like that. Like I think they had like 23 players on that roster or something that were drafted. I don't know. It was insane.
It wasn't 23 in a single year because that's more than the record. But yes, so there were teams before that super team era of 2009 through 2023 or 2024 that certainly would have held up. All right, so here's a question. What do we think, and Pete Nakos crunched the numbers on this, what do we think is the total payroll for this team if you use 2025 NIL dollars?
I'm gonna look like an idiot. I don't know. $13,000. That's
$13,000. I don't think that you could do it for. I don't even think you could get like a backup.
I didn't mean to say 1,000. I meant million, but like I think that's too low because didn't like Ohio State's last year was 22 million, right? Isn't that what people were saying? So
Pete says just the first rounders alone from the older guys would have been 13.7 million.
Okay,
but the whole thing would have cost between 20 and 25 million.
Yeah.
Because the question is like, how much are you paying for Gore? How much are you paying for McGahee? They're freshmen, but they were massive recruits.
Right.
They were 5 stars. What keeps the cost down, shockingly, is Ken Dorsey.
Yeah.
Ken Dorsey's a good college quarterback. He winds up being a 7th round draft pick in the NFL. If you had a higher profile quarterback, this probably goes up by $3 million. But you still, Pete thinks you still have to pay Ken Dorsey $1 million in this situation because Ken Dorsey's coming off productive seasons.
Do you know what I have a hard time with? Is valuating like Vince Wilfork as a freshman and Jonathan Vilma as a sophomore. Some of the younger players that we know how the
because Jonathan Vilma becomes a starter that year.
Yeah.
And is just off the charts great. But they probably aren't paying Jonathan Vilma that much going into the year. Clinton Portis, they're probably paying really well going into the year. Andre Johnson's a sophomore, but I think they're paying. They know what they have in him. They know what they have in Shockey. They're paying those guys. Bryant McKinney is probably now Ed Reed. Because I said I didn't tell Pete the team at first. I just gave him kind of the breakdown, and I was like, yeah, one of the safeties is the greatest safety who ever played football. So Pete just basically put him in the Caleb Downs slot. Like whatever Caleb Downs is making now, he put Ed Reed there. So Ed Reed is probably the most expensive player on this team. I would think Bryant McKinney would be second or third most expensive, the left tackle, because that dude didn't give up any sacks in college.
Right. Yeah. It's just crazy to look at this all on one list.
Yeah,
it really is. It's remarkable.
It is, and I wish they had been challenged. I wish there had been a team that could have challenged them more.
I don't know. I don't know that there could have been.
Because I covered Tennessee that year. If they'd beaten LSU, they would have played Miami in the Rose Bowl, and that had some really good players. Like they had John Henderson and Albert Haynesworth on the D-line, but that Miami team would have rolled them. The Nebraska team they ended up playing in the Rose Bowl was not that good. The Big East, threw a little bit at them, but not really. It just there wasn't anybody back then that was like this.
Yeah. That's yeah, I don't even know why I said 13 million, because I had the context of what people think that the best rosters from last year were. That was a stupid guess, but 25 million sounds about right.
Yeah, which look, somebody could afford that. Like Ohio State, probably Georgia, probably Alabama could afford that right now if they needed to.
Yeah.
But here's the problem.
Afford it, whether or not those players that are young and turn out to be NFL draft picks stay.
Now Sean Taylor played on that team as a freshman. He was good enough to play. But does somebody throw a massive bag at Sean Taylor to say, hey, look, you don't – they already got a bunch of old guys. You come in and be your star right away. Ditto for Frank Gore. Ditto for Willis McGahee. Antrell Roll would have been a day one starter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At another school.
That's the question. I don't know. If you do believe that the super team era is coming to an end, then you agree that you have to think that those players would have gone elsewhere. I
think they would have. Miami would not have been able to pay the freshmen to keep those older players. They would not have been able to pay the freshmen enough to have all those freshmen.
Have all of them. Yep, I'm with you.
So it's such a good question, Willie. I love it. That was amazing. So thank you for that.
It was fun to go down memory lane too. That was my childhood right there.
Oh my God. That team was so freaking good. And if you want to get pumped, go watch I believe it was the 2001 game. It might have been 2000, but the Ed Reed speech at halftime of the Florida State game, where he starts talking about how bad Florida State beat them when he was a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm hurt, dog. I'm hurt. Unbelievable. All right. Our next question comes from Jacob. He sent this one to Ari, so I'm glad you guys are starting to send them to Ari.
Yes.
Hi, Ari. I'm a big fan of the show, and I love listening to you guys while I'm working. I changed semi-tires for what a job. Holy crap.
Electric.
And you guys helped me pass the time while giving some awesome insight into the behind the scenes of the sport. I really don't have a question so much as I think I might be the only person in history to have done this, and I figured I should share. I live about an hour and a half north of South Bend, but I'm a diehard Michigan fan. Back in 2023, I had the opportunity to go to the Notre Dame USC game, and I couldn't pass it up. It was an awesome atmosphere, and the game was pretty entertaining, even though it was a blowout. The Notre Dame fans stormed the field after the game, and I couldn't just not go on the field, right? Not only did I storm Notre Dame's field in full Michigan gear, but I also got a picture with the leprechaun. So I guess my question is, do you think I'm the only person to have ever done this? And please forgive me for the atrocious hair. Now, listen, this flow is very good, Jacob. Okay, so it's the Notre Dame USC game. He comes in Michigan gear just to, show solidarity. And so this has got to happen, have happened elsewhere, where like the game we were at last year, we were at Ole Miss, Georgia, and the Ole Miss fans stormed the field. There's had to be somebody visiting a friend at Ole Miss who went to like Alabama that week, and the Ole Miss friend is like, "Hey, we're going. Let's go. We're going on the field."
Yeah, but does the Ole Miss person who has an Alabama friend there have a friend that's wearing Alabama gear to the game? It's like,
I don't know that you do that. Like Notre Dame fans are pretty gentle. They're pretty nice. I don't think you'd walk into Vaught Hemingway wearing full Alabama gear when Alabama's not playing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it takes some coconuts to do that just in general. Because whenever I go to a game, like I've gone to sporting events as a fan in the pros a lot. I like sports. I always just wear, like I went to a Stars game a few weeks ago and I like Dallas Stars and I like bought a Dallas Star windbreaker at Target and wore it. Like I always like bet on the home.
I always like the person that wears the random jersey, not because they're a fan of any team, but like I'm going to a game, therefore I must wear this one jersey that I own. But it's like a Brett Favre Packers jersey and they're at a college football game.
No, I mean, I'm happy that like the thing too is that like when you can supersede like your interests as a fan, like your specific team's interests, and just know like this is part of college football history. I want to be a part of it. I think it's pretty cool. So, I think it's dangerous to wear random stuff to hostile stadiums. I don't know if I would do that in the SEC, especially. Like there's the religious aspect of Notre Dame means that they're probably less likely to get your butt kicked. But
this is also the crowd that for years the old people would tell the young people to sit down, and at a certain point, like the Notre Dame administration had to come and say, no, please stop yelling at them for cheering. Like you're supposed to be loud.
But hey, thanks for listening to the show, and I'm happy. Hopefully you got a smile on your face while changing tires. Thanks for doing that. That's the Lord's work right there.
Exactly. Semi-tires, giant tires. All right. This one comes from KC. Dear Andy and Ari, if you had to send your kids to Florida or Arizona's rival school, where would you send them? Now, is Casey asking, can I send my kids to Arizona State, even though that's Ari's alma mater's rival? Like I might be down for that.
If my daughter wanted to go to Arizona's rival, where would you send? And like for me, this is a layup because Arizona State is the only answer. And ASU is awesome.
And for me, it's a little more tricky because like you ask a Florida graduate, it kind of depends on when they graduated, who they're going to identify as the chief rival. Like the older people are always going to say Georgia. The people from my era are going to say Georgia, Florida State, or Tennessee, depending on their own personal flavor. So, like my thing on this would be,
what is it? Like, what is the poll result?
Ooh, that's a good question. We should ask Florida people that. We like who do you identify as your biggest rival? Georgia, Florida State, or Tennessee? It's probably going to be more Georgia and Florida State than it is Tennessee. But like my thing on that is I'd love to send one of my kids to Georgia so I go hang out in Athens. It's the best college town in America. But that said, I live in Florida, which means if I send them to Florida State, it's cheaper. So I kind of like that too. And I don't know about you, Ari. The one thing about fandom that I do not get is the people that are like, because I've got some friends in Gainesville that are like, wow, I don't want to set foot in Tallahassee. It just smells up there. Like Tallahassee is super fun. Tallahassee's an awesome town.
I hear a lot about this in Texas where like UT fans will like, I'm never going to College Station. Place is a hellhole. College Station's cool.
Yeah. But listen, if you have beer and like a good burger place or a good pizza place or a good wing place or a good barbecue place, I'm going to have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never been to a college campus. I was like, oh, this place sucks.
No, it is strange to me. And I don't think most fans are that way. But there is a certain element of fan bases that are like, oh, I can't be seen in the rival's town. No. Just trust me. You can go have a good time. And this reminds me of we had a letter writer or we had a viewer write in with a mailbag question during the year we were apart. And I thought it was really interesting. And they actually did send me an update on it. And it was this kid grew up a diehard Florida fan, whole family went to Florida, got a scholarship to Florida State, and asked, It's like, what do I do? Do I just wear Gator stuff to the games? Do I even go to the games? And I'm like, go to the games with your friends. You don't have to wear Florida or Florida State stuff. Just go to the games. I bet you'll become a Florida State fan because all of your friends are. It's part of the social element of the university. You'll fall in love with it. If you're making good friends and you're enjoying your college experience, you'll fall in love with it. He wrote back a year later. He's like, I am now a diehard Seminole fan. I love it here. I met some of my best friends. I was like, I told you. Like, it's not what you grew up with. It's those memories you form when you're at college and the people you meet and the experiences you have with them. And one of the great communal experiences for those of us who attend these large universities is the college football experience.
Yeah, and being in the stadium with all those people. Yep.
So, but yeah, if I had my choice, I think I'd send him to Georgia.
Yeah.
Because that's just more time in Athens.
Athens is awesome.
So, all right, one more. And this one comes from Matt, and it harkens back to a conversation that Matt and I had on social media the other day. He said, can you and Ari Wasserman talk about the great movies you missed during the first 10 years of your kids' lives? For that would be for me. And Ari's missed the last couple of years because of his daughter being born. And so what this stems from is I made a really stupid joke while watching basketball last weekend because they had a ton of commercials for The Accountant 2 on. And I saw The Accountant 1 and I remember liking it, but I don't really remember many of the details of the movie other than Ben Affleck's like an assassin accountant who's also autistic. But I didn't remember John Bernthal playing the brother, which is a very important piece of the movie. And I made the joke because I saw the Accountant 2 commercial for the 50th time in a row. And I said, what, do they think Casey Affleck wasn't believable enough as Ben Affleck's brother? And everybody's like, you're an idiot. Bernthal was in the first one. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, The Hangover was the last movie we saw when my wife was pregnant with our first at the theater. I really don't remember much from The Hangover until about 2022.
That's crazy. So here's the deal. Anybody who's listened to our show, even back to when we were at The Athletic, will remember my stance on modern entertainment in the movie form. We've had discussions about like the Academy Award nominations from like the 90s, and you go through it and like you see like the movies that they released when there was like a brand new movie in the theater you wanted to see every week. And like now I just like did a quick Google search on like the Academy Award or the Oscar nominees for Best Picture for the past year. And like, I've never even heard of 8 of the movies that are on here.
I feel like the ones that are up for the awards these days, they're all just super depressing. And I would watch those when I was younger, but I just don't have time for super depressing as an old person.
The thing that I don't even know.
My life's got enough going on. I don't need to be worried about your problems.
Here's the thing that I need to know though, Andy. So I like drama. I like crime thrillers, and I like movies like American History X, for instance. I think it's one of my favorite movies, and even though that's the depressing movie, I just think it was really well done. And I like those types of like crime thriller movies. So I am not a huge comic book guy, as you know, and I'm not a huge sci-fi horror dude. So, like, are these movies even in the theater? Like Anora?
So Matt gave me a list of what I missed during that period. And I've seen a few of these, and a few of these I saw later. So once my kids were a little bit older, so I do remember them and remember really liking them. But The Accountant, American Hustle, Argo, Arrival, Baby Driver, Birdman, he put it in alphabetical order for me. Boyhood, Creed, Dallas Buyers Club, Django Unchained, Dunkirk, Ford versus Ferrari, Gravity, The Hateful Eight, Hell or High Water, Inception, Inglourious Basterds, Interstellar, the John Wick movies, Edge of Tomorrow, Logan Lucky, Man of Steel, Manchester by the Sea, The Martian, The Nice Guys, Planet of the Apes movies, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Sicario, Whiplash, Zero Dark 30. Like, Sicario is a good example of this. Sicario I did not see when it came out. I probably saw it 3 years afterward, but it was awesome. Like that's one you would love.
Is there a single?
Yeah.
Is there a single movie on that list though that could compete with like best pictures from the 90s? Like all those movies, I saw Whiplash. I've seen a few of those. I didn't watch Planet of the Apes, and I didn't like those. Aren't my movies, but like, is there a single crime thriller on that entire list?
American Hustle was really good, but I don't know that it competes with those.
I'm just trying to think like best crime movies from the 2000s.
Like Logan Lucky's a great heist movie, but you're not going to be like, that's my favorite movie ever. It's just a fun heist movie.
I don't know. I don't feel like I saw Argo in the theater and I fell asleep because it was the most.
That's Ben Affleck's fault.
Yeah, but like also too, like I don't feel like there's any movie that he just listed off there that you could like go to bed feeling like, oh, I can't believe I didn't see it. You know what I mean? It'd be like like say I've never seen Forrest Gump. It's like that. Like, there's no movies that they make out here that like are in that category. And
well, we've talked about that. It's just moved to television. Like, my wife and I are watching, and I know you guys are watching 1923 right now. 1923 is better than any movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like look like I don't. Here's the thing I don't know, Andy, and you have to tell me. Is the reason why I haven't heard of Honora the Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, because I'm in my baby bubble, or because they don't promote these movies and they're not in the theater? Like
they certainly don't promote them to you.
But like back in the day, meaning 2005, when they made a movie, every single time they cut to a commercial break during the Alabama-Georgia game, they showed trailers of awesome movies coming to the theater. Like, I don't even know
those art house movies are not the ones they're promoting. There's not a huge promotion budget on those. So, well, I think we've identified a hole in the market, though.
But like, Honora, a movie that I just heard for the first time right now because I Googled it. Did they even show that movie in movie theaters?
I believe so.
Just a collection of remakes, children's movies, horror movies, and comic book movies. That's all it is now. It's the same crap over and over and over again. It's remakes. Everything they do is a remake. It's like nobody can come up with a new idea anymore. And then the middle tier.
Well, I have a new idea. My new idea is, hey, there's no promotion for these movies. If you have a super depressing Oscar bait movie, promote it on our show.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Email advertise it on 3.com.
Yeah. Is Movie Phone even a website people go to anymore?
I have no idea. All I can think of is the Seinfeld episode. Why don't you just tell me what movie you'd like to see?
Yeah. Why don't you just tell me what movie you'd like to see? All right. I'm just clicking on a random movie theater near me. Here's what's in the theater. The Woman in the Yard. I don't know what that is. Death by Unicorn. I don't know what that is. Hell of a Summer. Don't know what that is. Captain America, which I think they've made 1,900 of. So, like, congratulations. Go watch Captain America.
New Captain America, Anthony Mackie. I believe he's an LSU fan.
Mickey 17. Never heard of it. Novocaine.
Mickey 17 looks interesting.
What is it?
It's sci-fi, though. I don't think you'd like it.
Oh. Novocaine.
I know that one.
Dogman. The Monkey. That's out right now. So
Dogman is books my kids read when they were in early elementary school.
Back in 2005, when there was a movie you wanted to see in the theater, like 5 at a time, and you didn't even know, like where you had like a conflict of like, what should I buy a ticket to?
I just remember when I was in college, like my freshman and sophomore year in college were just epic. 1996, 1997, those were epic years for movies. Like going to see Boogie Nights in the theater. It was just tremendous. And then every week it seemed like there was something else cool. But yeah, that's not how it works anymore.
2005, I just did a random year. 2005, Coach Carter came out, which they don't make those movies anymore. Just like middle tier good movies, like middle budget movies, right? Yeah, I love Coach Carter. I thought that was an awesome movie. But like that's not a movie that will be remembered in the annals of history as one of the greats, but it's probably better than 90% of the movies they make now. Wedding Crashers came out that year. The 40-Year-Old Virgin came out that year. The Longest Yard remake came out. Waiting was a hilarious movie.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That was a great movie.
I'm trying to think of like other movies that The Ringer. Remember that movie? I don't even know if they could make that movie anymore. With
The Ring or The Ringer? Oh, The Ringer.
The Ringer.
Yes, The Ring also, but that was a few years earlier.
Yeah. Sin City came out. That was a weird movie. V for Vendetta. I don't know. Brokeback Mountain came out. I don't know what you think about that, but like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like now, if you even scroll down to like, the movies that are in the 30s, that they are more like Coach Carter was the 37th most grossing movie that year. And it's like, that was a great movie. I don't know. Maybe I'm full of crap.
I think that the money for that has been moved to television.
Yeah, and television is great. Like, I mean, The White Lotus right now is incredible, and there's always something to watch on TV. But like, I cannot tell you, it's been years since a movie came out that I've been like, I cannot wait to go to the theater and see. Like, I can't even remember.
I miss comedies that I would just repeat the lines over and over, like, because you've been around me and my wife. We basically speak in movie quotes, and so. Like, we showed the kids Best in Show the other day, and it's like, oh, that's where you get all of these, 5 things that you always say. And, Spaceballs for me is another big one like that. But like, there's no comedies like that anymore. It was weird. We were on spring break. We watched the one on Amazon Prime that has Reese Witherspoon and Will Ferrell in it. I believe it's called You're Cordially Invited. And I said to my wife, I was like, it was okay. It was a decent movie. It's not great. But I was like, that's the first comedy I've watched in like 5 years where I actually remember a couple of the jokes. And I actually want to see it again.
You want Superbad. You want Old School. You want like, I mean, like the fact that they I don't even know if they could make Superbad anymore because people are
it might be a struggle.
So but yeah, like, I do miss movie theaters, and they're fun, and it's an experience. We took our daughter to see Moana 2, and that was the first time she went to a movie, and that was cool. But like, I haven't gone to a theater as an adult in 6 years, and it's not because I don't want to, and it's not because I had a kid. It's because there's no reason to, and that's the saddest part of it.
Well, hopefully we'll get some more, but we will be entertained this weekend by some great college basketball because we got the Final Four. We got Florida Auburn. We got Duke Houston. Ari and I will be in San Antonio. Thanks to Whataburger. The Whataburger food truck will be with us. Spicy ketchup for all. We cannot wait to see you. So come join us on Saturday, noon to 4 in San Antonio. We'll talk to you on Saturday.